guys, welcome back to another week's episode. This episode we're going to be doing something a little different. Not going to be coins. We're going to actually try a cooking video. One of my favorite meals I cook every time we go camping. Something I call campfire beans. I literally will cook in a Dutch oven over the campfire. I do have a home way of doing this in a French oven. So we'll get to it here in just a moment. We'll see you on site. So everything already prepped. We start off with a mixture of baby lima beans, pinto beans, kidney beans, black beans, and northern white beans. What I do is I'll buy 16-ounce packages, mix them together, and this is 4 cups that have been soaked overnight and rinsed in the morning. Then we have a pound to a pound and a quarter of ham steak that's been chopped up into bite-sized pieces. The fat center and the bone have been trimmed out. 4 cups of chicken broth. We have salt, pepper, onion powder, garlic powder, thyme, smoked paprika, and cumin. Of course, a hot sauce. Any hot sauce is fine. A medium-sized onion that's been julienne thick, and a pound of bacon that's been chopped up. I usually use thick cut bacon because it renders a lot better than just regular cut. So we'll start off by rendering the bacon. I'll be right back. Like I said, I usually do this in a Dutch oven over a campfire. But at home, I do use a French oven, which the major difference is Dutch oven is straight cast iron, while the French oven is cast iron lined with porcelain. So we start off heating up the French oven to about a medium-high heat. Once we get the temperature here, I'll be right back. So we start off by rendering the bacon. Go ahead and put it in the pan there. Again, trying to do this with a bad hand. Not the easiest thing in the world. Pull them into this down until it's crisp. Again, don't worry about pieces sticking to the bottom, because after a moment they'll release. The burn spots on the bottom will render out in the chicken stock a little bit later on. As we're trying to render this down here, we want to try to keep all the grease. Once the bacon gets crispy, you're going to want to set it aside, so have a plate or something to put it on. As you render down the fat, you'll see that stuff starts sticking to the bottom. You'll actually want that. Don't worry about scraping it up. Like I said, once you add the chicken stock, it will finally break up and mix into the soup. That's extra flavor. So again, don't worry about it. Just wait till your bacon crisp up. And like I said, once it crisp up, you want to put it on a plate, set it off the side for later on. While we're waiting for the bacon to render, a little bit of a backstory about my cooking skills. I've always been a coin collector, but in the past I used to work in restaurants, from bar and grill to gourmet. And At one time, I worked in a gourmet restaurant, and the executive chef took me under his wing and taught me how to cook. After I got out of the culinary business, it became more of a hobby, and so nowadays I just create recipes. I think right now I'm up to about 200 to 250 recipes of my own. If you want some of my recipes, just email me. My email is in my About page. And I'll send you a link to my Dropbox where all my recipes are on file. Alright, now the bacon is rendered and about crisp. So I'll go ahead and start spooning it out. Make sure you use a slide spoon to drain the grease. Don't worry about some of the more pink bits. They'll be going back into the soup and the cooking. Again, you see you want to leave some of the, I shouldn't say some, you want to leave all the grease and fat. I'll be back once I get all this bacon out. Alright, right now you want to drop the temperature down below medium. And while the grease is still hot, you want to go ahead and add your onion. You're going to cook the onion until it's translucent. Break it up and make sure you get all the large pieces apart. You want to keep all the julienne pieces. Again, you see all the crust at the bottom. Like I said, don't worry about it. It will break up when you put the chicken stock in there. There's something about bacon and onion. It's a great smell. One of my favorite cooking smells. You see the onion is starting to turn a little bit. Once it gets to about this point, you want to add the ham. You cook the ham till it's about caramelized. Go ahead and flatten it out. Don't bother it. Let it do its own thing. A lot of mistakes that people make is they sit there and stir and stir and stir. If you just leave it alone, it cooks a lot quicker. What you're making right now is what I call the flavor base of your bean soup. As you see, everything is starting to come off because a lot of the water is coming out of the ham and the onions. Basically, this will be the main flavor of your soup: the ham, the onion, the bacon. I call it a soup. It's not really soup. It's just a bean mixture, but it comes out almost like a soup. Again, this is your main flavor. You will be adding spices to it. Your best bet is to let this cook for quite a while. It gets all the flavor mixed in before you start adding your stock. Be right back. Depending on how watery your ham and your onion is, noticing that mine's real watery, it's not going to caramelize, but this is still fine because all that water is getting the flavor mixed in there. So as soon as you add the stock, it'll be all flavor. So this is a good thing. The watery, or the more watery the ham is, the better. If you do have a dry ham, you want to caramelize it. If you have a watery ham like this one, you want to let it render all the water out, and you let it steam and kind of break down, render the water out, let it kind of evaporate, so the water actually is more flavor. So you want to render down to about half. Be right back. As you can see, I'm at the point now. The ham is starting to break apart a little bit. It means all the fat has been rendered out of it. The onions are soft and near translucent. So at this point, you want to go ahead and throw the bacon back in. Go ahead and mix it in real good. And you want to go ahead and pour the stock in. Let it come to a boil before you add your beans. Right now, pretty much all the flavor is starting to mix into the chicken stock. Also, while you're at this point, you want to go ahead and add all your dry spices. Again, like I said, salt and pepper and thyme, onion powder, garlic powder, and smoked paprika, and cumin. I really don't measure it out. That's about a teaspoon of pepper, a tablespoon of salt, tablespoon and a half of thyme, about a teaspoon and a half of smoked paprika, tablespoon of both onion and garlic, and then about 2 tablespoons of cumin. Steam in the kitchen usually kind of hardens it up a little bit. You need to break it apart and get loose from the plate here. Doesn't matter if you don't put it all in, as long as you get the most part in. Give it a good stir, get the spices mixed into the stock. Like I said, return that to a boil. I usually just cover it because it brings it up to temperature a lot quicker. Be right back. Alright, now I hear the bubbling. I know it's to a slow boil. You start to see the little spots, the white spots where it foams a little bit. This is where you want it. You want it to a slow boil. You drop the temperature to about almost low, medium low. You go ahead and add your beans. Again, trying to do this one-handed is kind of hard. Those of y'all that know I've had that stroke, left side weak, so I don't use the left hand as much as I should. Anyway, you want to go ahead and mix this, get the stock above the beans as much as possible. but go ahead and mix everything into the beans. I'll go ahead and stir this for right now just to get everything mixed into the beans. But in a moment I'll be adding water, just get the stock above the beans. Right now it's at a medium low. My dial goes from low to high, which is 1 to 10. I'll put it at about 2 to 3. You want to press it down just a little bit. And like I said, you want to add some water to get it above the stock, or get it above the beans. About that much, not much at all. Go ahead and press everything down below the water line or the stock line. Let it simmer for a bit. Go ahead and cover it. In a few moments, we'll drop this to low and let it sit for 6 hours. Be right back. At this point, you start to see a little bit of foam up top. That means it's starting to come back to a boil. Go ahead and drop the temperature to low. And like I said, you want to let it sit for about 6 hours. Come back and stir every once in a while, but you want them to break down and start starching the stock. It'll make it a little bit thicker, and also spread the bean flavor throughout the soup. To this point, from prep to about here, it'll probably take about 35-40 minutes. So again, like I said, at this point you want to go ahead and cover it and let it simmer for about 6 hours. So we'll be back in about 3 hours here to see where it's at. Alright, so 3 hours later, a little warm there. Beans are still at a simmer. They're starting to tenderize. I want them to actually start breaking apart and starch in the water, or starch in the stock. Get a quick taste. Yes, the beans are tender. So here soon they should start breaking apart and starching the stock, which will make it nice and thick, which is the consistency that I want. Right now it's still real soupy and watery. The flavor is good, salty just enough. Earlier within the ingredients, you remember I said some hot sauce. That's not until much later when the beans are about done, because you want to put the hot sauce in the actual thickened stock instead of the pre-stock. So another few hours and it should start breaking apart. Let me drop the temperature a little more, and hopefully that will calm it down a little bit. And we'll be back in a few more hours when hopefully it's done. Alright, 4 hours into the cooking time. The simmering has slowed down a bit. As you can tell, the beans are starting to break apart. They should start starching the stock here soon. You kind of want a little bit of a mush, but not too much. As you can see, the stock is starting to dwindle down a little bit there. And as you can see, the pastiness here of the beans. So I'd say in about another hour or so, it should start being more of a mush. Which again, like I said, is about what you want. So we cover that up. We'll be back in about an hour. Alright, this is about where you want it. The stock is starting to get real starchy. So we'll go ahead and turn it off and let it sit. While we're waiting on it, we'll go ahead and add the hot sauce. You can put as much as you want to in. I put a little bit just to give it a little bit of bitterness and heat. Like I said, you can use whichever hot sauce you want. I have a certain favorite that I use. Not going to product place. And mix the hot sauce in. You let it sit for about 15 minutes to cool down. You don't have to cover it back up if you don't want to. I'm going to cover it back up and leave it cracked. Just to let it sit for about a half hour or so. I'll be taking this over to a friend's house, which is pretty much my guinea pigs. And we will definitely enjoy it tonight. Usually you can serve this with either a regular cornbread, not sweet, but just regular cornbread, or garlic bread. Definitely good. Probably need a little bit more hot sauce. I like to feel it just a little bit. Usually a little bit goes a long way, but every once in a while with it, when it comes to a starchy meal, you want to kind of add a little bit more than normal. The starchiness takes away from the heat. So we'll go ahead and stir that in, get it nice and mixed. Definitely a great soup, if you will, for cold weather. Great over rice. Like I said, you can serve it with cornbread, just regular cornbread, not the sweet type, or you can do it with garlic bread, or you can just eat it alone by itself. Other things you can add to it: celery and carrots. When you serve it, you can serve it with raw onions. Oh yeah, it's there now. Alright, so if y'all end up making this, I hope you enjoy it. It's really good. Kind of got a good smoky flavor because of the smoked paprika. If it's done over campfire, you actually add to the smoky flavor because the smoke from the campfire kind of blends into the soup itself. Big tip, if you are cooking over campfire, do not use pine. Pine causes a lot of ash and a lot of soot that ends up getting into your soup. Also, the sap just does not taste good. I would get something like oak or pecan or something like that to cook over it. It tastes a lot better. So, again, guys, if you really cook this, I hope you enjoy it. I'll definitely be recooking this over a campfire here soon for the scouts coming up in September, October, November area. Yeah, it's definitely not hot because I've kept it on a low simmer this whole time. So it's not extremely hot. I can actually touch the pot without burning myself. Again, eat, drink, be merry, enjoy. See you guys next week.